I know what you're all thinking, and you're absolutely right. I look great. What do you see when you see this? I see $1. How about now? Yeah, it's still $1. How about now? Still $1. How about now? Well, take that back there. Yep, still $1. Kind of interesting. The world could do things to you that make you look like this, but ultimately, you're still worth this. I remember I just recently rebuilt an entire dev team out in San Francisco, and I had to do it really fast. So what did I do? The two questions I asked. Somebody asked me, how did you do it? I said, I asked 2 questions. Number 1, what did you do last? If I don't understand that, you're not getting the job. But if I do, I go to the next question. What's your biggest failure? Why would I ask that question? It's kind of weird, right? Why do I want to know about somebody's failure? If they can't answer that question, I don't give them the job. And here's why. Smooth seas make terrible sailors, right? And rough seas make good ones. But here's the thing, those rough seas don't make people look pretty all the time, right? So it seems the world's a bit confused. Here's how. When they see a sailor that went through rough seas, they see this, and I see this. Don't believe me? The biggest problems provide sometimes the best value for your company. Here's an example, 9 Inch Nails. Ever heard of them? Well, Jimmy Iovine did. They had signed with a small record label who didn't want to distribute their music because they thought 9 Inch Nails was a terrible band. Jimmy Iovine decided they were wrong and made a partnership with that record label. But you know how he did it? He went into his bathroom and lived there for a year. He lived in his bathroom for a full year until he made that partnership. He called the guy every day, every morning, every night, until he made that deal. The next thing you know, he signed a distribution label with 9 Inch Nails, and the rest was history. He doubled the size of his business. And he signed so many more artists as a result of that deal. But it was a lot of problems, right? Right? What did he see? What did he see? This. What did the record label see? This. Dr. Dre. Eminem, ever heard of them? Dr. Dre was a successful rapper, puts out an album, it flopped. The record label wants to cut him. He doesn't know what to do. He stumbles on Eminem's music. He's like, this is great. Calls him up. The next day, Eminem comes to his house. They make My Name Is in the first hour they're together. Amazing stuff, right? So Dr. Dre says, he signs him and puts all of his money on Eminem. And everybody tells Dr. Dre, what are you, crazy? This guy's white. This guy's got blue eyes. He's never going to sell rap records. And how many Grammys and an Academy Award later and a movie later, what kind of a decision was that, right? But it was wrought with problems. It was wrought with uncertainty. What did Dr. Dre do? Everybody saw this. He saw this. I know in my own life I've been undervalued. I remember one summer. I was sitting there at home, and my ex-girlfriend from high school was at home as well. So I remember we met up one night, and we're driving around, and I didn't know if we were going to start dating again. And she goes, hey, let's pull into the local diner. So I pull in, and all of her girlfriends are there. It was awful. It was terrible. It was terrifying. It was an ambush. I walk in, the first thing they're like, who's better, Brittany or Christina? The next thing I know, they're talking about their Uggs. So after about 20 minutes of this, I gotta floss my pet giraffe. So I'm like, excuse me, I gotta go do something else. And I walk out, my ex-girlfriend grabs my arm, and I'm like, what's up? She goes, you look good. I'm like, yeah, I know, that's pretty obvious, and I get out of there. And what I realize is this, we're always gonna be friends, and that's fine. We're never gonna date again. And the most important part is, what she really brought me along to do was to feed her ego. And I don't really have time for that, and I'm gonna explain this to you. I need to tell you about my religion. I'm an atheist. That means I believe life is more than just a test. Well, my priority is my legacy. What's my legacy? My children, my time, my business, my value to the world. I don't have time to have a friend that needs me to sit around and feed her ego so she can feel better and I can get nothing. So I remain friends with her, but our priority went from number 1 to like number 40 or 50. We're still friends today. It's fine. But the entrepreneur's journey is to identify that value and know when somebody's wasting their time and when somebody's actually going to provide something. So we've all been undervalued. I know that I have. How do I fix when I'm undervalued? I only have one solution to this. Greed. Don't believe me? I triple my salary. All of a sudden, I go from 0 girlfriends to 2 girlfriends. Like that. The girls at the girls' night out, they're calling me up to have a cup of coffee, but there's a problem with all the girls from the girls' night out. They saw this. So the second I go from this to this, they're out the door because they're not very good at evaluating value. So I need to be aware of that in my personal life. But there's more, right? Let's take a look at a sports book. You would think that millions of people making decisions at the same time would be better than me. Their intuition would be better than mine. If I go to a sports book, there are favorites and there are underdogs. The favorites are the teams that people bet on the most. Well, guess what happens with those? Of the favorites, 60% of them win. 40% of them lose, which is only slightly better than a coin flip. And you know how you reverse that? You take those underdogs, you take the players, you pay them more money. Next thing you know, they're favorites. It's kind of a weird effect. But see, that's perceived value. That's not actual value. Teddy Roosevelt said, and I have to summarize here, that it's not the critic that matters, it's the person in the arena, because the failures and the successes are his, right? I had a friend, my best friend, his father almost became a priest, then met his mother and didn't become a priest, went to Columbia, got a lot of degrees, and he worked for the government service for 40 years. And after rebuilding all these government agencies, I said, listen, you got to tell me how you figured out how to solve all these problems in the government. He says, I said, tell me all the stuff you learned. He goes, I learned exactly one thing. I said, what was that? He goes, they're all whores. You see, what he's saying and what Teddy Roosevelt was saying is the same thing. The whores and the critics are the same. And what the entrepreneur's job is to identify and cultivate value. That doesn't say anything about the critic. They're supposed to ignore the critic, because if they don't, it will affect their legacy. So when people ask me what my religion is, what do I use to fix my personal life? This. It's my God, because it's the best tool that I have to fix when I'm undervalued. It's not my legacy. So, when you go home tonight, tuck your children into bed, remember to value your time, and tell your children to pray to God.